On the morning of the 14th of August, 1991, in an operating room at the Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix, Arizona, a 35-year-old American singer-songwriter named Pam Reynolds was being prepared for a procedure called hypothermic cardiac arrest, known to the surgical team by its more cinematic name, Operation Standstill. The procedure required stopping her heart, draining the blood from her head, cooling her body to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. For a period during the operation, she would have no heartbeat, no blood flow to the brain, and no measurable electrical activity in the cerebral cortex or the brainstem. By every clinical definition used in neurology, she would be dead. The procedure was the only available option to remove a giant aneurysm at the base of her brain that had been classified as inoperable by conventional methods. 3 hours later, she would be revived. What she said happened in between is a documented medical case. Pam Reynolds was 35 years old in 1991. She lived in Atlanta, Georgia. She had a career as a singer-songwriter and a producer. She was the mother of 3 children. In early 1991, she began experiencing dizziness, loss of speech, and difficulty controlling her movements. Imaging at the Emory University Hospital identified a giant basilar artery aneurysm at the base of her brain, in a region called the brainstem, on the inferior surface of the pons. The aneurysm was located in a place no surgeon would normally attempt to operate on. Conventional neurosurgical clipping was impossible. The aneurysm would, if untreated, kill her within months. Her neurologist referred her to Dr. Robert Spetzler at the Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix. Dr. Robert Spetzler at the Barrow Neurological Institute was one of the leading basilar artery aneurysm surgeons in the world. He proposed the hypothermic cardiac arrest procedure, which he had pioneered in the late 1980s. The surgical team consisted of approximately 20 named medical personnel, including the neurosurgical staff, a cardiac team led by Dr. Hilary Bonneau, and an anesthesia team led by Dr. Murray. The procedure required cooling Pam's body to approximately 60 degrees Fahrenheit, stopping her heart and draining the blood from her brain. Her eyes were taped shut. Her ears were plugged with molded speakers that emitted continuous 100 decibel clicks, not for her benefit, but so that the brainstem auditory evoked response could be monitored in real time. When the clicks stopped producing a response, the team would know the brainstem had gone offline. Witnessed, documented miracles every week. If you want next week's, subscribe. Pam later reported, in interviews with the cardiologist Dr. Michael Sabom and others, that she left her body shortly after the anesthesia took effect. She described watching the surgery from a position above her own head. She described the instrument that Dr. Spetzler used to open her skull as resembling, in her account, an electric toothbrush with a separate case containing interchangeable blades. The instrument was a Midas Rex bone saw with a Stryker accessory case. She described a female cardiac surgeon expressing concern that the blood vessels in Pam's right groin were too small to accommodate the cardiac bypass cannulas, and a male voice responding to try the other side. She quoted a song that was being played in the operating room. Dr. Michael Sabom, a cardiologist who had spent the previous decade collecting and verifying near-death experience reports, interviewed her 3 years after the surgery. He cross-referenced her account against the operating room records, the surgical team's individual accounts, and the manufacturer photographs of the bone saw. Every detail she had reported was independently verifiable. Dr. Sabom published the case in his book Light and Death in 1998. The case was reviewed in the peer-reviewed Journal of Near-Death Studies. The skeptical response, advanced most prominently by Dr. Keith Augustine and Dr. Gerald Worley, argued that Pam's observations could have occurred during the early phases of anesthesia, when some residual cortical function may have remained, rather than during the period of complete electrical silence. Supporters, including Dr. Sabom, responded that the specific details Pam reported, particularly the conversation between the surgeons, corresponded to moments when the brainstem evoked response had already gone offline. The debate continues in the published academic literature. Neither side has produced a definitive resolution. Pam Reynolds gave the same account in every interview for the next 19 years. Pam Reynolds died on the 22nd of May, 2010, from heart failure unrelated to her original surgery. She was 53 years old. The medical records of her 1991 surgery, the surgical team's individual accounts, and the manufacturer documentation of the bone saw remain on file at the Barrow Neurological Institute. Her recorded interviews with Dr. Sabom are in the archive of the International Association for Near-Death Studies in Durham, North Carolina. Witnessed, documented, inexplicable.